When you hear the words high cholesterol, most people instantly picture clogged arteries, heart disease, and looming health risks. Naturally, it's the kind of news that makes anyone nervous. But what if I told you that for a rare group of people, high cholesterol doesn't fit the story we're used to? Imagine having cholesterol levels so high that most doctors would immediately prescribe medication. But at the same time, your overall health markers suggest your body is thriving. Surprisingly, this is not a hypothetical scenario. It's the reality for a group known as lean mass hyperresponders, or LMHRs. Curious to know why some people experience this weird lipid phenotype and what it could mean for health? Then let's explore this fascinating corner of human metabolism. Lean mass hyperresponders, or LMHRs, are a unique group of individuals who, despite being lean, highly active, and health conscious, display a strikingly unusual lipid profile. Many follow ketogenic or very low-carb diets, track their meals with precision, avoid processed foods, and maintain regular, intense exercise routines. At first glance, their lab results often seem to defy conventional medical expectations, leaving even seasoned clinicians puzzled.
Cholesterol of 190 milligrams per deciliter or higher, HDL of 60 or higher, and triglycerides of 80 or lower.
LMHRs frequently present with LDL cholesterol levels soaring to 190 milligrams per deciliter or higher, HDL cholesterol at 60 milligrams per deciliter or more, and triglycerides at 80 milligrams per deciliter or lower, a combination rarely seen in standard practice. LDL, often labeled the bad cholesterol, typically signals potential heart risk, while HDL, the good cholesterol, provides protective effects, and triglycerides represent circulating blood fats. In LMHRs, this paradoxical mix shows LDL at concerning levels, yet HDL is impressively high, and triglycerides remain very low, creating a confusing picture of high risk paired with strong protection. This unusual pattern challenges the long-held assumption that high LDL automatically equals high heart risk. LMHRs demonstrate that raw cholesterol numbers don't tell the whole story. Instead, context, such as diet, activity level, and overall metabolic health, plays a crucial role. Researchers are increasingly intrigued by this phenomenon, exploring whether it represents a harmless adaptation to a fat-focused metabolism or something more complex beneath the surface. Ultimately, LMHRs remind us that interpreting cholesterol requires looking beyond numbers and considering the full metabolic picture. To understand why LMHRs show this unusual lipid pattern, we need to examine how the body adapts to a very low-carb or ketogenic diet. Normally, carbohydrates are the body's main energy source. Glucose, derived from carbs, circulates in the bloodstream and fuels cells for energy. Cholesterol and triglycerides usually remain within predictable ranges when the body relies primarily on carbs. However, when carbohydrate intake drops dramatically, the body undergoes a remarkable adaptation. Fat becomes the primary fuel, and the liver steps in by producing ketones, a powerful alternative energy source, and increasing the release of lipoproteins, the particles that carry both fat and cholesterol through the bloodstream. Interestingly, research highlighted in the New York Times notes that very low-carb diets tend to raise HDL, good cholesterol, and lower triglycerides, while the response of LDL, quote, bad, cholesterol, unquote, is less predictable. For LMHRs, this unpredictability is extreme. Their LDL can skyrocket far beyond what most people would consider normal, even though other markers suggest exceptional metabolic health. So why does this happen? For lean, active individuals, the body's energy demands are high, and glycogen stores, the quick-access sugar reserves, are often low. To efficiently deliver fat-based energy, the liver increases the number of circulating lipoproteins. Think of these lipoproteins as delivery trucks transporting fuel to muscles and organs. More trucks on the road mean higher LDL numbers on lab tests. But in this case, the trucks may be serving a practical, even beneficial purpose rather than posing a threat. Remarkably, LMHRs often show other signs of excellent cardiovascular health. Inflammation is typically very low, insulin sensitivity is high, and metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch seamlessly between using glucose and fat for fuel, is exceptional. This combination suggests that elevated LDL in LMHRs may not signify harm, but instead represents an adaptive response to a fat-based diet and high energy demand. While LDL, HDL, and triglycerides provide important information, cholesterol numbers alone don't tell the full story. A less talked about but equally crucial marker is apolipoprotein B, or ApoB for short. This protein is attached to every LDL particle and essentially tells us how many cholesterol-carrying particles are circulating in the bloodstream. In the general population, higher ApoB usually rings alarm bells because more particles mean more chances for cholesterol to sneak into artery walls and contribute to plaque formation. Here's where LMHRs throw a curveball. Many of them have elevated ApoB levels, which would normally suggest increased cardiovascular risk, yet at the same time they show very low triglycerides, exceptionally high HDL, and no signs of insulin resistance. It's almost paradoxical. This unusual pattern challenges our usual assumptions and raises an intriguing question. Could the function of LDL particles, the role they play in energy transport, matter more than just the number of particles? In LMHRs, LDL may act more like a delivery system for fat-based fuel rather than a threat to arterial health. This has sparked considerable debate in research circles. Some experts argue that ApoB should never be ignored because the sheer number of LDL particles can carry inherent risk. Others propose that LMHRs demonstrate a special metabolic state where context and particle function are just as important as raw numbers. In any case, this underscores a key point. Cholesterol must be understood in the broader metabolic and lifestyle context rather than judged solely on lab numbers. The Keto-CTA study, What Imaging Shows. To move past speculation, researchers designed the Keto-CTA study using coronary CT angiograms to visualize actual plaque inside the arteries of LMHRs. Instead of focusing only on cholesterol numbers, this study investigated whether extremely high LDL truly translated into cardiovascular risk.
He picked it up, crowdsourced a study where he then took this population of people and organized to have them flown out to a lipid center to have scans done on their hearts, state-of-the-art coronary CT angiography scans.
Participants, many with LDL levels that would alarm most doctors, underwent baseline scans followed by follow-up scans 1 year later. This allowed researchers to observe the progression or regression of arterial plaque over time. The results were striking. The strongest predictor of plaque progression was not LDL cholesterol, but whether participants already had plaque at baseline. Individuals with clear arteries at the start generally remained plaque-free, while those with pre-existing plaque were more likely to see progression. Surprisingly, LDL levels, even when extremely high, did not consistently predict plaque growth. Several participants with LDL that would typically raise concern showed no progression, and in some cases plaque even regressed, suggesting improved arterial health despite persistently high LDL. These findings highlight that LDL cannot be interpreted in isolation. A metabolically healthy individual with low inflammation, high HDL, and low triglycerides may experience very different cardiovascular outcomes compared to someone with the same LDL but poor metabolic health. Naturally, these results prompted debate. Some experts noted that non-calcified plaque did show some progression, suggesting caution. Others warned that downplaying LDL's significance could give people a false sense of security. Nevertheless, the overarching message is clear. The relationship between LDL and cardiovascular disease is far more nuanced than we've long believed. A bigger shift from lab numbers to contextual understanding. The lean mass hyperresponder, or LMHR, phenomenon is challenging the way we've traditionally thought about cholesterol and heart health. For decades, we've been told that high LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, is a direct path to heart disease. The typical advice has been clear-cut. Take statins, follow strict low-fat diets, and monitor cholesterol constantly. But studies like Keto-CTA are showing us that the story is far more nuanced than we've been led to believe. LDL is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. For people in the LMHR group, a high LDL reading doesn't automatically spell trouble. Instead, it may simply reflect the body's adaptation to a fat-focused metabolism. When carbohydrate intake drops dramatically, like on very low-carb or ketogenic diets, the body shifts into fat-burning mode. This shift can elevate LDL levels, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that arteries are being harmed. In fact, this adaptation is often accompanied by other positive metabolic markers, suggesting that the rise in LDL may serve a functional rather than harmful purpose. Focusing solely on LDL can actually be misleading. What truly matters is the bigger picture: inflammation levels, insulin sensitivity, overall lifestyle habits, and the presence or absence of arterial plaque. These factors give a far more accurate reflection of heart health than any single lab number ever could. What's truly exciting is that this shift reflects a broader change in how medicine is approaching cardiovascular risk. Instead of treating lab results in isolation, doctors are beginning to consider the full context: HDL, triglycerides, ApoB, diet, activity levels, and even advanced imaging studies. It's about seeing the whole forest rather than just individual trees. LMHRs remind us that heart health isn't defined by a single number. It's a complex interplay of multiple factors, all working together to create a picture of overall metabolic well-being. What this means for you. If you're following a low-carb or ketogenic diet and notice that your LDL levels have jumped, it's completely normal to feel a bit alarmed. After all, most of us have been taught that high LDL is automatically dangerous. But research on lean mass hyperresponders, LMHRs, shows that context really matters. For someone who is lean, metabolically healthy, and physically active, an elevated LDL might not carry the same risks as it would for someone struggling with obesity, insulin resistance, or chronic inflammation. It's a subtle but crucial distinction. It's important to approach high LDL thoughtfully. Regular checkups, detailed lipid panels, and, when appropriate, imaging studies like coronary CTAs can give a much clearer picture of your actual cardiovascular risk. For many LMHRs, the combination of staying fit, managing inflammation through diet and lifestyle, and keeping metabolic flexibility high appears to offer significant protective benefits. The main takeaway is that cholesterol isn't just a static number on a lab report. It's a dynamic marker influenced by your metabolism, activity, diet, and overall physiology. The story of lean mass hyperresponders is far from over, but one thing is clear: they're challenging the way we think about cholesterol. The Keto-CTA study showed that high LDL cholesterol doesn't always behave the way we've been taught to expect, and that plaque, not just blood tests, tells the real story of heart health. So the next time you hear that high cholesterol is always bad, remember this story. Science is rarely that simple. Sometimes the exceptions teach us more than the rules ever could. If this breakdown sparked your curiosity, share it with friends, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more health insights that challenge the status quo. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.